Ready? Hello, everybody. This is a regular meeting of Hollister City Council on November 3rd, 2025. The meeting is now called to order. It is 5:30 p.m. City Clerk, please call roll.
Vice Mayor Pache,
Present.
Councilmember Resendez,
Present.
Councilmember Morales,
Here.
Councilmember Deanda,
Here.
and Mayor Stevens is not present. Thank you.
Okay, City Attorney, can you please read the closed session titles?
Yes, Vice Mayor. 3.1 Conference with Legal Counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. Significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 or 3 of subdivision D of Section 54956.9 of the Government Code, 2 cases. 3.2 Public Employee Performance Evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Title City Attorney. 3.3, Conference with Real Property Negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, Property 190 Maple Avenue, Hollister, California 95023, Agency Negotiator Jim Pia, Interim City Manager, under negotiation price, purchase terms, and conditions. 3.4, Conference with Labor Negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Agency Designated Representatives, Interim City Manager Jim Pia and City Attorney Mary Lerner, Employee Organizations, Service Employees International Union, SEIU Local 521, Hollister Firefighters Union, HFFU, Hollister Peace Officer Association, HPOA, and unrepresented employees. 3.5, Public Employee Appointment / employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Title City Manager.
City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments for any of the items.
Okay, at this time, we will convene to close session.
Okay, Vice Mayor, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming and being in attendance. Really excited for tonight's meeting. We have a lot in store. Let's start with the Pledge Allegiance, and Councilmember Morales, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you for that. City Attorney, is there any reportable action from today's closed session?
There's no reportable action.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna start with agenda item 6.1, a proclamation honoring the Key Club. And I've got a little something that I can read, but I would much rather read the big something because I think I can speak for us all. And I think we're all very proud of the Key Club. So I'm gonna read the entire proclamation here. Proclamation honoring Key Club International's 100th anniversary, San Benito Key Club's 35th anniversary. Whereas Key Club International, the largest high school service organization, is celebrating 100 years with more than 250,000 members in 38 countries, is observing the week of November 3rd through 7th, 2025 as Key Club Week. And whereas the San Benito Key Club, sponsored by the Hollister Kiwanis Club, is part of this global student-led community service organization. And whereas the San Benito Key Club is celebrating its 35th anniversary at Hollister High School of providing service, building character, and developing leadership. And whereas the Key Club has helped raise nearly $35,000 for the Cancer Society's Relay for Life over 22 years, hundreds more for UNICEF, assisted Hollister Recreation, and many other worthwhile organizations. And the caring members of the San Benito Key Club have volunteered thousands of hours in service projects such as environmental cleanups, which I'm a huge fan of and proponent of. I do them myself, bringing holiday joy to young children, and elderly supporting the city recreation programs and veterans groups. And whereas the unselfish service provided by the San Benito Key Club has had a positive impact on our community and its citizens, now, therefore, I, Rudy Pache, Vice Mayor of the City of Hollister, do hereby proclaim November 3rd through 7th, 2025 as Key Club Week in the City of Hollister, and call upon our officials and citizens to congratulate members of this organization on their 35th anniversary and their achievements, and make themselves aware of the Key Club, whose members are preparing themselves to be better, responsible citizens as they provide service to our community. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause fixed the seal of the City of Hollister this 3rd day of November 2025. Let's hear it. Thank you. Great job. No, do I understand that we have some members of the Key Club here? Should we get together? Let's hear it for them. Got parents in attendance. So proud of you. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for, want to get in the photo? Are you in it? Yeah. Actually, good. Boss. Okay, let's get some photos. I got you. Who do I hand it to? Boss? You want to hand it? You don't think you at the same time? Great. great job. Thank you for your service to make it a positive reference. Give me a chance to read that entire thing. Zero one more time. All right. All right, and now, special orders of the day, 6.2, we have a presentation on the Higher Aspirations Program. And do we have a representative? Three of us. Excellent.
Oh, thank you. Jennifer with me? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. My name is Annette Gutierrez. I'm the Director of Basic Needs and Success at Gavilan College. And one of the programs that I have the honor and privilege of working with and supporting is our Higher Aspirations program. We have a few of our team members here today to help with the presentation. But I do want to mention that Megan Christian, our program specialist, and Violeta Guerena, our departmental assistant, are key contributors to our success of the program. So I'm going to invite folks up here because we are going to take turns. And this program is a program that supports our justice impacted students. So we have an on-campus program, and then we have programs in the jail as well. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Rodriguez. I am the Juvenile Justice Program Coordinator at Gavilan College. So I work a lot with the continuation schools, alternative schools, as well as the juvenile justice facilities that we have in San Benito and Santa Clara County. So our program, our mission, working with currently or formerly incarcerated individuals. Again, I work with youth. So at the youth, it's a little bit different. They don't have to be formally incarcerated to take advantage of the services that we offer in our program. And so we help with career and academic pathways, social support, and basic needs services, all those things that are barriers for a lot of people to getting their education. And one of the big ways that we do that is offering that social support. So we give them a community that they can come to when times are tough, things get hard when they're in school, when they're applying to school, they have someone to lean on. And so we have quite a few different pieces of that on campus and in the facilities that we support our students with. All right, so meeting our students. So our students have a lot of challenges and barriers. This comes from early age, from current times. These are things that they've had to go through, things that they deal with on a daily basis that challenge them to get their education, to make their lives better. And so these are all things that we're familiar with, that we have peer mentors on campus that are trained to help with. When they have these challenges, they know who to come to. Especially the basic needs part. That is one of the biggest pieces that a lot of our students come to us for, is that, like, hey, I need support with these things. I'm coming to you for help. We also facilitate healing circles on campus so that they have time to talk about the other things, like the trauma that they've been through, whether that's familial, whether that's in the community, whether that's institutional. They have opportunities to talk about that with us.
Good evening, folks. My name is Tong Vang. I'm the counselor coordinator for the Higher Aspirations program. So I provide services both on campus and at the county jails. This is just a snapshot of the demographics of our students. This is the statistics from this past spring, 2025. We were currently at 114 students. And so all of these students at some point were formerly incarcerated, either county jail or through CDCR. Our program has expanded a lot. So currently we're in the fall semester. Our roster, I just checked today, we're at 152 students. So program is expanding. In terms of average persistence, 72% of our students persist from year to year, from 2020 to 2024. The 28% that did not persist, typically every single year we conduct a survey at the end of every semester um, in terms of persistence. And these were some of the factors that came up. Housing insecurity was by far the greatest contributor to students needing to stop going to school. Also loss of employment, economic hardships, health emergencies, and then childcare. One thing we do really well on campus is that 74% of our students receive services from 2 or more support programs. So in addition to higher aspirations, we're part of a larger network of support programs on campus. EOPS, first generation college students, CalWorks, Fresh Success, CARE, Next Up for foster youth. And so, in addition to just our program, students are receiving additional support through other counseling, other counselors, and also program services. 61% of our students have a GPA higher than the median average of a 2.5. This is, I'm really proud of them, right? I think they're one of the best groups of students in my eyes on our college campus. 39, is that 39? Yes, 39% of our students have a GPA higher than a 3.0. And so just looking at our spring semester students that are enrolled in our program, 51 students are eligible for the transfer pathways. Some of those schools listed there are where students have gotten admitted into. And I'm hoping that this semester, right now, we're in the process of applying for, students are applying for transfer. So I'm hopeful that this list will continue to expand. On our campus, we have something called career and academic pathways. So you'll see on the pie chart to the right, I believe we have 8 caps. Recently, I believe it's Senate Bill 2831 really changed how college campuses, the conversations we're able to have with students who are formerly incarcerated around what careers they can pursue. And so connecting their career goals to educational requirements are extremely important, ensuring that based off of their conviction history, they can be able to have employment opportunities upon graduation. We know that education is the greatest factor in reducing recidivism. But we also know that a lot of folks that come out of the carceral system are funneled into skills and trades. So you'll see there's the 19.2%, but we see also 27% of our students, that's the largest group of folks that are going into the social sciences and humanities. And then after that, we have business, and then health sciences and wellness. A lot of our students are becoming nurses, radiology techs, veterinarians, right? So they're really changing the narrative around the achievement for formerly incarcerated students. So these are some of the support services we provide. We try to remove as much barriers as possible, right? They get textbook, transportation grants, counseling. We're located inside the Basic Needs Center, so they get rental assistance, housing support for students that aren't housed. I think Annette will talk a little bit later about expungement and legal services, transfer assistance. So we've been working a lot with UC Santa Cruz Underground Scholars and CSU Monterey Bay Project Rebound. There's a pipeline for students that have been impacted by the justice system to be able to transfer and pursue a bachelor's degree. One thing I think our program has grown a lot in the past 2 years since we've really expanded it is just building a program outside of just the quantitative outcome of reducing recidivism. So you'll see like a lot of our students, they come in and they don't trust us. It's just the nature of the isolation of incarceration, right? The systems, institutions they've had to navigate. And so building that trust really takes time. I think we have a really great team that is able to foster that environment for our students. We have tons of student engagement activities, Rob has mentioned a few already. And the biggest part is just building community on campus so that students that are formerly incarcerated can step onto campus and feel like they have a sense of belonging.
So in case you're wondering, why are we here at City Council in San Bernardino County? Well, we have been a partner with San Bernardino County Jail since about 2007 with really no funding. In 2022, there was legislation that allowed colleges to have received funding. It was very competitive and it continues to be competitive. So not all 116 community colleges have funding. We're lucky to have both the adult and the juvenile program. Like you heard Tong say, we have expanded. We started with 7 students. We're at about 150, over 150. And so we're here because we know that we're doing our part, right, in terms of education and getting them connected to all the services and whatnot. But we know that we need local government and we need community to wrap their arms around this population as well, whether it's through employment opportunities, whether it's through housing, second chance housing, second chance employment. And of course, funding is always needed, but really it's about the exposure and support. And so in your packets, I believe you received a little bit more information about higher aspirations, and you also received information about the San Jose State Record Clearance Project that we're bringing to San Bernardino County on Wednesday. It is a free service from 2 to 4 at our Hollister campus. I believe, to my knowledge, I'm a Hollister native. I'm 45 years old. I've worked for Galvin College for 20 years. We have never had an expungement program here in this county. It's much needed. I asked Tong before we came up, like, how many students are San Benito? He said about half of our students come from this county. And so what does expungement do? It doesn't undo, right, whatever the offense was, but it gives our students, our community members, our next door neighbors, a chance at having, a decent job and being able to apply for housing and get into permanent housing somewhere. The other thing that we're doing on Saturday, November 8th, this is in Gilroy. What we do plan to bring this to Hollister in the spring, and it's a free legal clinic. We're working with attorneys that are at no cost for immigration, employment, and housing. Again, to remove barriers, right? To give access to this vulnerable population of individuals in our community to our students. Both of these are community events. They're not just for students. And that's something that we're really proud of, that we're not containing it with just Galvin College. We're expanding it to our community because that's what we do at a community college. And that is our contact information. I'm not sure if anyone has questions. We'd be happy to answer. I know we might be over time.
Councilmember Morales?
Yeah, is your, good to see you.
Hi,
Thanks for coming. Are you receiving, Rising Scholar funds?
we are.
Okay, and
We
it's for both, counties,
We
Santa
do.
Clara and San Benito?
Well, it's one pot of funding. It comes to the district. So for our Rising Scholar, it's about $142,000 a year. And for, that's the adult program. And for juvenile justice, it's like 1.5 over 3 years. So like a little more than 500,000 over each year. So we get much more for the juvenile population than we do for the adult population. There's a lot more services for the youth, which is wonderful. It's great. But we're seeing an influx of adults that have a really high need. They come with families, right? They're not just the individual. They come with entire families that we know that this program and other things that we're doing are not lifting just the individual. They're lifting the entire family.
And when is that 3 years up
For juvenile or adult?
for juvenile?
2 more years. We're in our 2nd year.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for that. And Councilmember Resendez? Well, I'm so excited and proud to hear about what you all are doing. I'm already so encouraged by the success that you've had so far. I'm not totally sure what we can do like financially directly, but finding ways together to find other avenues of funding to help you guys potentially grow and expand. Like hearing a third of your students are on track to potentially go to college at some of the great state schools that we have just here in California. A third of them, and you're up to 150 students from, I can't even remember the numbers, 120 to 150, you're growing, and a third of those students are potentially on track to go to college. I think a lot of us forget about how important the trades are, right? We need things built, right? We're talking about fixing roads and fixing infrastructure. We got pipes breaking all the time. We've got public works just here right in Hollister. And just hearing about people potentially getting tracked into the trades is really powerful. So again, I don't know what we can do directly. We're trying to rub some nickels together here in Hollister to pay our bills and get, back on track financially. But I know that we've got a lot of really smart people, not just in this room right now, but up here as well. And with city staff, I think that we can probably find some good potential avenues for additional funding, because you guys are on a great track, and I'd like to see what we could do to keep that trajectory moving forward in a positive way.
I appreciate that. And funding isn't everything, right? The support of the community and having your all's platform to support the things that we do to, encourage folks to participate, to spread the word, I think is also equally important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So glad to have you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks for bringing all this to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's keep that in mind. Higher Aspirations Program. So public input, this is the time for anybody in the audience to speak on any item that's not on the agenda within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the records, and speak to the city council. If you're joining via Zoom, please click on the button on your screen to raise your hand. And if you are joining via Zoom via cell phone, please press asterisk or *9. And each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any items not on the agenda. It's a mouthful. City clerk, do we have any public comments?
Yes, Vice Mayor. Our first speaker is Antonio Mendoza, to be followed by, I believe it's Rigoberto Avalos.
Hello, council members. My name is Antonio Mendoza, and I am the new executive director of the Community Food Bank of San Benito. I come to you today because our community is facing a crisis with the federal government shutdown and with SNAP benefits not being issued for the month of November. Now, 40 million Americans are not going to receive their SNAP benefits in November. Of those Americans, more than 7,000 live in San Benito County, and more than 3,000 of them are children. The cost of administering SNAP benefits or CalFresh benefits in this county for 1 month is $1.3 million. And right now, people who are not receiving them are being referred to the food bank. So we will see a tremendous influx of people seeking our services in the month of November. And while the governor did accelerate $80 million in Cal Food funds to help food banks during this time, it's important to note regarding that funding that it is not new funding. It was intended to support the existing service that we provide for the community in San Benito and Hollister, where we support more than 10,000 people a month with our services, and also that it is not emergency funding. So this is funding that was already allocated and is going to help us with cash flow, but is not going to help us accommodate all of the people that will be seeking our services in the month of November. And we are coming to the city to ask that you work with us to find any emergency funding that you can to help us meet the influx of people who are going to be facing food insecurity in the month of November. We would use this to make large purchases of food to accommodate the customers that we are taking in for the first time or after a long lapse, and to expand our services so that we have more windows in which people can receive food and can deliver food to more locations. It is also important to note that despite the news that came out earlier today that the administration was going to release funds to partially fund CalFresh benefits, you can check the news sources from CNN to the Associated Press. People are in agreement that those benefits may be delayed by weeks or months, so it does not eliminate the crisis that our community members are facing. While I am happy to know that they will potentially receive partially funded benefits for the month of November. So the County Administrative Officer has already declared a state of emergency, which the supervisors will be discussing during their meeting tomorrow. We ask that our leaders in our community treat this as an emergency and do whatever they can to help us meet this crisis and serve our community. Happy to discuss this further with any of you, and I appreciate you taking the time to consider this concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio Mendoza, for bringing this up. And yeah, we'll discuss this further.
Okay, appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Rigoberto Avalos, to be followed by Kenny Deeg.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rigoberto Aviles. I'm a local community member, a community organizer, a lover of San Benito, lover of Hollister, and I'm here to ask our representatives, our elected representatives, to take the issue that Mr. Antonio brought up very seriously. Very seriously. There's people that need this help. There's people who work in the county offices. There's people that work that don't work at all. There's people that have regular jobs out everywhere. We all depend on this service. Where if you've ever seen the mobile food bank, it is amazing to see from every member, every sector of the community, we have people that use this service. And it's very important for every single one of you to take action, to do everything you can. Everything you can. You guys need to be contacting your people in Sacramento, contacting your people everywhere. Honestly, when I think about my city council members, when I think about Roland Resendez, when I think about Dolores Morales and Rudy Picha, I want to know that you guys are working for the working class. I want to know that you guys are working for the people that really need this help. And I just want to let you guys know that people are waking up and we are demanding more from our representatives, and we are watching very, very closely. We understand that we can get together and find votes wherever we need to. We're asking you guys to really take this seriously. I want to know clearly, when I ask myself 6 months from now, what did Roland Resendez do? I know exactly what he did for that, right? Everybody in the crowd I'm sure we can all agree, we just want accountability. We want our elected representatives to be here as well. I'm a little disappointed that Miss Roxanne Stevens and Priscilla Danda aren't here. I'm also, I would like for you guys to, whenever I get newsletters, whenever I get mailers, it's really embarrassing to see one side fighting another side instead of talking about what you guys are doing. Really, la enchilada, seriously? You're using my Latinidad for political purpose, for political gain. It's really embarrassing. And I'm not a defender of the other faction. Believe me, I don't agree with a lot of the things that they've said, a lot of the ways that they've treated me specifically. So I really want to see mailers that say what you're doing for the community, not just what we're doing the biker rally, right? Because that took so much time, took so much effort. Really, take this seriously. We're watching. It only takes 100 votes to flip, right? And then you're not in office anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rigoberto.
Our next speaker is Kenny Deeg, to be followed by Maggie DeLuch.
Hi, my name's Kenny Deeg. I live on Marigold Street. These are my neighbors back here in the back. They're also experiencing the same negative public nuisance experiences with dust and noise as I am. They will not be providing any public comment from me right now. Also, I've got many of my other neighbors that just couldn't make it here tonight, unfortunately, or attend via Zoom. Anyway, and I've also been in contact with Ms. Deanda and Mayor Steffens. Since July, me and my neighbors have endured high amounts of dust generated by large earth-moving equipment and early morning noisy start times at the construction site located at the end of Mimosa Street. This activity creates a daily public nuisance in our neighborhood. We are unable to enjoy our yards or be outside because of the nuisance amounts of daily dust. We have had to clean our yards many times since the start of the construction project. We are also unable to open our windows during the day due to the dust. So the one day we can enjoy our yards is on Sunday, after we spend a couple hours cleaning our yards up, unfortunately, before we can relax and enjoy it. The dust management was lacking severely with this project. They had basically 7 large earth moving tractors and 2 water trucks to address the dust. When they started adding dirt in the constant stream of dump trucks, it even got worse. They still only had 2 water trucks. And to try to control the dust, which was totally inadequate, the amount of dust created was a public nuisance. I contacted the Richmond American, the developer of the housing project, and spoke to the VP of land management. And she basically told me, yep, we've got a permit. And so that was basically it. She was no help. I sent the inspector my videos of the overwhelming nuisance amounts of dust, and he kept telling me he has talked to the contractor, Duran Venable, about the dust. Unfortunately, the inspector could not be there all the time to keep the dust production down. After many calls, I lost confidence, unfortunately. So I completed a Public Records Act request and it revealed the earth moving company, Duran Venables and Richmond American, did not provide the city with a dust mitigation plan, or it was just not provided to me upon my PRA. In the future, with all the expected home construction growth, the construction sites will be getting closer and closer to the established residential neighborhoods and homes. The amount of construction, dust, and it will continue to create a public nuisance in our neighborhoods. This will create a health issue to our residents and, more importantly, to our children. I hope the city can improve its oversight of construction companies and adjust the start and end work times to be more resident and community friendly. The city of Santa Cruz has a noise ordinance, which I helped craft years ago, that is tailored for its residents and specifically addresses construction noise with exceptions to the rules. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Deek.
Our next speaker is Maggie DeLuch, I believe it is, and then followed by Christina Martinez.
Hi, folks. I'm Maggie DeLoach, and I'm a new Hollister resident. My family and I just moved into a place off John Smith Road. We're loving it. I'm here tonight because I got an email about the need for help at the community food bank. And I didn't come prepared to say anything, but what I would like to say is that we have all got to work together as Californians, because it is a shame in the state that produces the majority of food in the entire world, that children would be hungry or elders would be hungry. So I'm hoping that we can all find ways to work together to help support something that does so much good. And I want to say that on my last trip to France, I was shopping in a market and I went to get some lettuce, and guess where it was made, or where it was grown? Hollister, California. So, so we can afford to spread a little of that food around.
Our next speaker is Christina Martinez.
Hello, my name is Christina Martinez, and I'm here to address council. And I'm imploring you to declare a food sustainability crisis in San Benito County. I grew up in San Benito County my entire life. I've been born and raised in Hollister, and I find it shocking and appalling that over 10,000 of my fellow community members have to rely on a community food bank to get the staples of their food. And I find it shocking that 7,800 people rely on SNAP benefits. As I'm a teacher here in this community in Hollister, and I can tell you firsthand, and I know there's a couple other teachers here, firsthand, there's probably several times a week that a student comes up to me at some point during the day and tells me, I'm hungry. I don't think I can wait till lunch. And it's often the same students. I forgot my lunch today. I forgot my snack. This crisis has begun long before this extended crisis. And I want to bring it to your attention. I can't even imagine how much worse it's going to get. Some of these children are very young, having to come to school and rely on a school lunch that sometimes it's food that they don't even like to eat, but they'll eat it. They'll still eat it. And I just want everyone here to think about that. If we already have 10,000 people relying on a community food bank, another 7,800 that are on CalFresh that will now have to turn to a food bank that is already going to be relying on funds that were already allocated for the people that they are already servicing. And then we're asking them to take on additional people, often people in our own community that are producing and working in the food industry, in the agricultural industry. Can you even imagine that you are picking those crops, looking at those crops every day, and you often don't have enough to put on your table? We are the breadbasket of the world. We are the world's salad bowl. Like the former speaker just said, we are growing the food, and yet we have such a high amount of people that rely on these services. It really begs the question, if we already had this crisis before, and then now we're adding to this crisis and we're going to be trying to come up with more food, we really need to declare this a crisis. It is food insecurity. It's, this population of Hollister is less than 100,000. I think we're at what, 65,000 people. That's a huge amount of people in this county that don't have enough food and have to make those trips to food banks. And I feel that it's probably much greater than we even know, because there's many people that are often in need that can't make it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
Those are all the speakers we have for this portion of the agenda.
All right, thank you for all your public input. There are a lot of things going on in the world. There are some things that we can do locally, and I think we can do a lot if we work together. So more to come on that, and let's get to work. Do we have any comments from council?
So this was public comment. These aren't agendized items, so we
Okay,
shouldn't
copy
go
that.
into a big discussion.
Okay, moving on to consent. Do we have any members of the council that have any brief questions or comments on the items from the consent agenda? Okay, do any members of the council have any items they wish to pull? Okay, may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Vice Mayor Pache, we do need to take public comment on the consent agenda items, but we do not have any public comments.
Okay, thank you for that. No
Vice
public comment.
Mayor.
Appreciate it. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I'll move to adopt.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries 4-0. Okay. Okay, so council business 9.1. We have the rates and fee studies for the Hollister Municipal Airport and presentation by Ascension Group Partners. May we have that staff report?
All right. Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members, members of the public. Jeff Crusher, the airport director. Tonight, we have the opportunity to receive a rates and fees study for the Hollister Municipal Airport. Ascension Group Partners are aviation practitioners. They, with experience in aviation development, consulting, and management. The staff report outlines more of their background there and the experience. And then AGV has been working with the airport since March of 2024. And tonight we have Ryan Leake, the principal, who will be giving a presentation. And also joining us is Kurt Castagna, President and CEO of Ascension Group Partners. With that, we should have Ryan online.
Thank you for that introduction. Kurt, are you available to provide a quick introduction, or do you have any introductory comments? If not, then I'll get started with the presentation.
Hi,
We should be
Ryan.
able to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kirk.
Hi, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here, everyone, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to serve your airport and work with Jeff. We've spent a number of months researching the details that we're going to share with you tonight, and think we've come up with a solution or some solutions that's very proactive for our industry, and would look forward to any questions you might have.
Thanks, Kurt. So if we can go to the next slide, I'll start there. We met with council a few months back and presented the findings of our initial findings of the rate study. And so what we want to do tonight is really kind of focus on the recommendations that we have coming out of this study. Jeff, if you don't mind just advancing to the next slide.
Is that the slide you want?
Sorry, it's actually not advancing on my slide, so that's probably what it is. I'll just follow along here if you don't mind going to the second slide there with the background slide.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So just providing a little bit of background, picking up where we left off from the working session that we had with council, and some reminders of the purpose of this study. So Hollister Airport is a federally obligated airport. In exchange for receiving federal grants through the Airport Improvement Program, Hollister is then obligated to follow FAA grant assurances. So the funding that Hollister typically receives is what 90% of the eligible capital projects to support the airport and keep it open. Well, Caltrans matches around 5% of that 90%. So effectively, you're getting close to 95% of capital projects that are funded through the federal system that provides for airports that are part of the National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems. It's up to Hollister as the sponsor of the airport then to cover those remaining capital costs in addition to all of the operating costs that it takes to run the airport on a day-to-day basis. Really, the grant assurances, there's a number of them, but the main one here is for the airport to make decisions in the best interest of achieving self-sufficiency. So the FAA doesn't have an expectation that the airport has to be self-sufficient, but that you're making decisions that are in the best interest of achieving self-sufficiency. The FAA doesn't necessarily provide or prescribe a methodology for how the airport has to establish the aeronautical rates and fees, only that whatever method that you use to establish the fee structure is fair, consistent, and transparent, and that you do have a fee structure that captures all of the fees that are being collected at the airport. So the schedule of rates and charges is a primary management compliance document. That's a term used by the FAA that serves as the sponsor's evidence of fulfilling the grant assurance obligation, so that if there's ever a challenge to the airport or the city as the sponsor of whether you're complying with those grant assurances that are obligations for receiving that federal funding, you can show the document to say, yes, we are meeting that obligation. Jeff, let's go to the next slide. So I know there's a lot of numbers on this slide. It's probably very difficult to read from where you're at. So I'll provide kind of a high-level summary in the report that was provided and attached to the agenda for City Council. You'll be able to find this in the appendix of our report. This provides essentially a pro forma based on the budgeted 2026 budget. We also provide the base year for 2025. And you can see the airport operating fund here. And Jeff's done a commendable job of taking what was a significant deficit in the operating budget and at least proposing a budget that should get the airport into a substantial surplus if everything goes as planned this year through a combination of increased revenues and reduction in cost. So from that, you can see the airport going forward over kind of a planning period over the next 5 years is able to generate a surplus that covers the operating costs and can contribute to those capital costs. Jeff, let's go to the next slide. This next slide is the second part of our pro forma that looks at the capital budget for the airport. Now, the capital budget itself, there's really two parts to this. The primary part is what we call the ACIP or the ACIP, that stands for the Airport Capital Improvement Program. And those are the federally, the capital projects that are eligible for federal funding. So those are the ones where you're going to get the 95% match, 90 from the federal government and 5% from Caltrans. And it's really Hollister's obligation to cover that remaining 5%. Now you can see here on this airport capital improvement ending balance that money that's rolling over from the capital budget or sorry, from the operating budget to support these capital projects is sufficient for the current fiscal year, but getting into next year and beyond will go into a substantial deficit that's close to $1 million by 2028. The reason for that is that ASIP or those capital projects, you can see there's some pretty substantial ones in 2027 and again in 2028 for a two-phase construction of the taxiway A project. And so even though the airport is operating in a financially self-sufficient manner, it's not enough to cover the funding for these large capital projects that are coming up in subsequent years. And essentially, it's a hole that Hollister will take, the airport will take about 5 years to be able to dig out of without really looking down the road to additional capital projects. So this ASIP is really only looking for the next 3 years through 2028. This isn't taking into consideration other projects that the airport has within the ASIP that will be rolling on after that period, as well as non-federally funded projects like hangar maintenance that are required to support this revenue that's coming in. Those hangars are generating revenue at the airport, but there's not a capital budget to help maintain those to make sure that they're sustainable long-term and continue generating revenue for the airport. Jeff, let's go to the next slide. So this is just a summary of the findings that we had from our initial presentation. You can really find all of this in the report itself, but I think what we're seeing at Hollister really is not all that different than what we're seeing at airports across the country, particularly general aviation airports that don't have commercial service. And we notice this is an acute problem in Northern California as well, particularly because the rates are already high, even relative to the peers that we see in the region and specific to Northern California. You have high rates, yet the operation and maintenance costs of the airport are not able to cover the capital needs in the budget, and so you're seeing pressure on this budget. The sustainability for the airport, as I mentioned, it's not just the operating budget itself, but being able to have staff that are adequate to operate the airport and be able to provide for those revenue sources that are going to be continually generating the budget or supporting the budget that you have currently. So it's not as easy as just raising prices. Really, the priority here is finding new sources of revenue to broaden that revenue base, but also prioritize ground leases and revenue generating opportunities over the near term that it will help to support the airport long term through new revenue generating sources. And then if the opportunity presents itself to be able to lower the rates in the future so that you can get back to the market rates so that they're comparable with other airports that will attract new business to be able to support the airport even further. Jeff, let's go to the last slide here. So the available options that the airport has, and we'll run through these. I'll just make a note now that this is a presentation to council. We're not asking for adoption, anything here. This report is a recommendation to the airport that they will bring back during the city's consolidated fee schedule process to propose any additional or any new or fee increases at that time. So we're just providing recommendations to the airport that they can act on through the city's regular budgetary process. The first one here is there probably is going to need to be some kind of bridge funding for the airport to support these ASIP projects that are needed through some kind of short-term loan or financing to the airport, because there's really nothing you can do at this point to generate the revenue that you're going to need to make up that $1 million shortfall for funding before that funding is due, before the needs are there for the capital projects. In addition to that, there's opportunities to seek private development projects where potential exists. We've worked with Jeff on a number of those, and he's brought a number to us to essentially validate. And the airport does have some really great opportunities to bring additional tenants onto the airport that can do some development that will generate revenue long-term for the airport and help with that financial sustainability. A number of those projects involve emerging technology, what we refer to as AAM or advanced air mobility, and eVTOL or electric vertical takeoff or landing aircraft. These are not traditional aeronautical revenue sources, but they're, as the name implies, emerging sources that can mix well with the existing aeronautical traffic and bring some financing to the airport. We're permitted by the FAA. Some more traditional sources of financing include, raising the existing fuel flowage fees to 10 cents a gallon, which is just a few cents on the per gallon on the existing fee schedule, but also establishing a self-service fee at 25 cents a gallon for those that are bringing their own fuel onto the airport and have the right to do that. The other thing that we're looking at here as well is adopting a methodology to standardize nightly and monthly tie-down fees by aircraft category. Again, the airport does have these tie-down fees established. They're not currently in the consolidated fee schedule, but you want to have a methodology to be able to demonstrate how you've established those fees and have them consistent so that they're fair across the different categories and, relative to the nightly and monthly rates. Other opportunities are establishing a fixed hangar ground lease origination or transfer fee that's based on the city's cost allocation rates. So when the city is providing either a new lease or renegotiating lease, that you're covering the cost for providing that service based on what the typical time to provide that service is. Also, many airports in Northern California have started adopting a derelict and non-operational aircraft storage fee. And this is great because the FAA requires that the airport be used for aeronautical use. And in cases where the aircraft are not airworthy or non-operational, that's considered a non-operation or non-aeronautical use. And so you're really required by the airport to establish higher rates that are comparable to offsite commercial storage fees. So this is essentially doing that to encourage those users that may have lost their medical or are no longer using the aircraft the hangar for aeronautical purposes, to free that up to create more aeronautical activity by somebody that's going to be using the airport and flying there. A few other things, reviewing landing fee exemptions. Right now, the airport charges for CAL FIRE operations. There might be other opportunities there. But really, the big takeaway from this is these are all the available options on the table for the airport that we've identified. And it's really up to the airport to bring these back with a proposal in the airport fee schedule in the spring. And then from that, annually review for market comparability to see if there's additional adjustments needed. Not that we want to automatically increase these fees based on a CPI, because it really is important that they stay comparable to other airports within the region so that the airport doesn't further fall behind in the market rates. With that, that's the presentation I have, and I think Kurt and I are both open to taking questions on the presentation and the report itself.
Okay, thank you for that report. Do we have any questions from Councilmember Morales? Deanda? Resendez? Fire. Oh, wait.
Thank you for the report. So it's a lot, first of all, right, to take in. But the thing that stood out to me the most was when you said that we have to loan the airport $1 million to finish the capital improvement projects. We don't have $1 million. I'm just speaking frank. So what are our other options? I'm assuming, have the capital improvement projects started, or can we prolong that process? Because I foresee not only us, but a great number of local municipalities, state municipalities, maybe even federal municipalities are going to head towards a recession here soon, potentially. And we're already hurting as it is. So that's what stood out to me the most.
Yes, so to answer that question, twofold. One is we can look at the variable funding sources. You may remember some of our utility funds do have a fund balance and could potentially do a 3 to 5 year loan to the airport. Doesn't have to be the general fund. I would state that based on what we know, the position of the general fund, likely the general fund will not be funding $1 million loan to us for grant match. That being said, our options are that we would delay enacting the partaking of the grant and executing the grant projects, which the reconstruction of Taxiway Alpha that is our most failed pavement, and that also is anticipated that we need that improved to serve the future new air attack base that CAL FIRE intends to build at the airport. So it is important. There's no easy quick fixes to this. And as I've stated in the staff report here, that I do believe that we can look to maximize ground lease opportunities for development, both on airport and then through the fence agreements for the adjacent airport property that's on the west side. You also have the Clearest Park that is around the new Amazon facility. And we hope to engage in some discussion about through the fence there. And yeah, and then when feasible, obviously, if instead of just taking a loan per se, because a loan is something we just have to pay back, it'd be nice to take a loan and have it be a revenue generating opportunity, like building hangars and then us receiving that rent and trying to have a loan repayment schedule where the airport would benefit with some profit. Because one of the things, without getting into elaborate details, is that the airport currently is not sufficient by itself. We fund operations, which is pretty minimal. We've got good equipment now that keeps us fairly efficient and effective at maintaining the facility. That being said, Hollister Airport has received a lot of the buildings in reverting at the end of ground leases. And so if we don't come up with money to eventually start maintaining those with a formal program, your assets become unleasable in the future. So that's another challenge. And then obviously these grant matches. So thank you for your question.
I have got a couple other follow-ups, if that's okay. So the grants, how much grant money are we talking for the CIP, particularly the one that you said that the runway needs to be repaired? How much grant money is that in total? And then if you could just remind me about that.
Well, so like this year, we have a project that we currently accepted the grant on. So that was 5% of $147,000. So that's pretty small. What we would probably do is look to do the design for the taxiway alpha reconstruction, because that is an important project. The question I would have for FA is how long is the shelf life for the design before we have to actually do the project? So timing that so that it's still teed up so that we can engage in that. But one of the challenges is really that FAA for these big projects, they have to find discretionary funding for the projects. And so the city would want to take a long, hard look at, are there other available funds other than the general fund that we might be able to get at least through the phase one, which the phase one of that project represents the northern section of taxiway alpha, which is the most failed pavement at the airport.
And then my second and final thought / question is, when you talk about this model of moving more towards like getting maybe potentially like hangars out there, like how is that doing in the public sector? Like what's going on with Hillview Reed Airport? I know they've had some challenges there, and I think that's potentially sounds like what the model that they were depending on. Like what is it looking like with other local municipalities as far as sustainability and generating revenue to maintain these properties and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, so if you compare us to other airports, I'm probably most familiar with like Watsonville. Watsonville has about 200 hangars that they currently lease out, and they have a fair number of tie downs as well. But they kind of serve all of Santa Cruz County, so they have a built-in kind of micro demand right there. We are obviously strategically located where tenants could come from the Bay Area, could come clear from Salinas, but Salinas has reasonable hangar prices. They're lower than us. We have about 100 hangar units for the standard, just the aircraft going in. And that's what is a good revenue generator for us. We have about 100 units with standing hangars. To add to that would be what we're looking at. In terms of Reed Hillview, I went up there with airport commissioners about a year ago and met with the airport director. So provided the Board of Supervisors continues down the same path, they are in about year 14 or 15 now of not partaking in FA grant. And so what they're banking on is closing the airport after the 20-year obligation runs out after the after each time you receive your grants, you kind of are re-upping for 20-year obligation. Albeit that we are already federally obligated because we were a former federal facility. So it's in the deed that we have to operate our airport as a public airport for perpetuity.
Okay, thank you.
So my main question, Director Creechero, is, you know, these other airports, you know, everybody's, you know, maybe it's twofold. You know, what's the kind of the direction of the general aviation industry? Like, are more people hopping into airplanes and zooming around? You know, we did just approve the eVTOL, you know, testing that's, you know, peripheral to airport operations. Airport operations are taking precedent. And so we, you know, took a, you know, put a foot in the future, I guess, kind of there. But other, you know, airports are struggling, I'm assuming as well. Like, what are they doing? Like, what's the general direction of the aviation industry? And then what are other airports doing?
Well,
to
I'll give
mitigate
a quick response to that, but then I'd like to actually have Kurt Castagna, the CEO, or Ryan speak to that, because obviously there are consultants and they've done management across wide areas, and so they can speak to this as well. But it is my opinion that general aviation airports and the people that utilize those general aviation kind of private pilots, the legacy aircraft are dying out. People are timing out, and the next generation is not in a position to own and pay for the aircraft, pay for the hangar. They're not getting their pilot's license because recreational flight is gotten to a point where it's not affordable. My dad was a pilot for over 35 years. My hope was to get my pilot's license and fly, but on a regular income, I can't afford that given other priorities. So that's where it's becoming an industry that's really kind of dying out. So it's great that we're seeing some new potential for recreational pilots to enter back into aviation through electric aircraft, because electric aircraft have a lower anticipated maintenance cost. So this whole advanced air mobility thing is another industry that is taking off and it's receiving really great support. And there's a lot of regional effort here just in the local area. My former airport has Joby Aviation. Salinas has Archer. And then we have Whisk Arrow here at Hollister. And those are considered three of the top OEM manufacturers in advanced air mobility. You may remember that the city participates in the Monterey Bay Tech Hub, and the funding arm of that is MBEP. And so we just received $7.4 million to establish flight corridors for the advanced air mobility aircraft to be able to fly between Watsonville, Marina, Salinas, and Hollister. So it's our goal to put charging infrastructure in place so that if they fly here, that we actually can charge the plane so they could return back or complete their test track. I brought an airport use agreement for True Weather Solutions. Remember previously in this year, it was True Weather Solutions is doing the advanced radar information collection to share for these eVTOL aircraft because it's lighter. And then going back to Monterey Bay Tech Hub, they are also working on what's called the electric vertical takeoff and landing implementation integration pilot program submittal. So FAA has asked for submittals from regions to identify, I think it's 7 or 8 locations across the US. And we are kind of considered with these 3 OEM manufacturers and the two companies, Joby and Archer, are putting pilots in the air taxi, the eVTOLs, and they are kind of leading the charge to do the flights for FAA certification. Whisk is choosing to pursue autonomous operations at this point, and they are considered the leading technology company in autonomous flight, as far as I know. So we're very blessed as a region to have them. We're very blessed to have the Monterey Bay Tech Hub as an organization that we're working to try to gain more exposure in that industry. It's well supported. I'm on calls monthly where it's regional partners and we've got Caltrans Division of Aeronautics, the head chief of that's on there. And so, you know, I think again, this doesn't get solved overnight. That's essentially what the study tells you, is this is not quick. There are some fees that make sense to enact on. I still have a gut feeling that we are not a destination airport. So in terms of outside users coming in and flying in and using our airport, if you start putting more landing fees or increase overnight fees and things, there is a balance point at which it makes it very easy for them not to utilize the airport currently. And so I think that taking a very balanced approach and practical approach and working with our FBO to really get a sense of people's tolerance for when they come in, what are they willing to do to potentially pay a little bit more. But with that, I'd like to hear from a statement from Kurt in particular.
Thanks, Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Jeff gave a lot of details there. The one thing I'd like to say is that your airport is an integral part of a larger system, you know, not only within the state, but nationally. So there's about 241 general aviation airports in California. We're working with a half a dozen in a similar fashion right now as we are with Jeff, relative to evaluating rates and fees and really the opportunity to make the airports self-sustainable. So as you know, the airport's an enterprise fund. It should run independent from your general fund, and its rates and fee structure and revenue streams and expenses should not be relying at all on your general fund. And that's the goal. And your airport's not unique in the evaluation that Jeff undertook here. But as he pointed out, you have some really unique interest in your airport, not just people flying in or basing their airplanes there, which I would have a slightly different take on that. I wouldn't say it's a dying industry. I would say it's an evolving one where the younger generation now are coming to fly are looking for different opportunities to how they enter into learning how to fly and why they're flying. But post-pandemic in 2020, the value of general aviation airports as opportunities to enter in and out of communities actually increased. It didn't decrease. So while we saw the commercial airline industry during the pandemic, general aviation airports didn't do that. And so some of the things that Jeff pointed out, the tech opportunities that you have with folks like Joby, Whisk, your through the fence operations with some of your cargo entities, certainly the fire base and the development of a fire base as an integral part of protecting the wild, you know, against wildfires and other events in that region would be a critical reason to keep the airport open. And so as he pointed out, this isn't a short-term solution, but I think that you have opportunities when you do your comprehensive fee schedule to look at additional ways to make the airport self-sustainable, but not just do it by necessarily raising fees to be a detraction to people to come to the airport or invest in the airport, but to look for ways to maximize your land, buildings, and other facilities to generate new revenue streams to help, and that's a self-sustainable effort. Written a number of articles on this, happy to share with you, often share those with Jeff. But the issues we're talking about here tonight are not unique at all. I mean, airports across the country are continuing looking for ways to evolve in a, you know, as it was mentioned, not just a recession. The cost of new construction over the last 5 years has gone up over 40–50%. And so the infrastructure needed to do runways and taxiways and build new buildings and hangars has put more stress on the end user. And so there's just a constant requirement that we look for ways for the whole industry to step up, not only the airports, but the users themselves. Ryan, anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's a great summary. Thanks, Kurt.
All right.
Okay, and then just in closing, I would point out that probably the one concern we may have with if you look in the performer there is that there is sensitivity about revenue diversion, and one form of revenue diversion is the indirect costs that are charged over to the enterprise fund. I know the city is working on a cost allocation plan to look at that more formally. Part of that comes from an audit finding for all enterprise funds. But just to note there that, you know, there is a significant amount of money that goes towards general fund overhead expense, which is kind of an offset to city manager, city clerk, and finance department time, those offices. And then there's a level of support to the information technology services. So that's infrastructure costs there. And so just understand that that's also an area that we need to look at so that we're not in jeopardy of revenue diversion.
Jeff, very good point. And again, that's not a unique situation to Hollister. That the FAA will come in from time to time and will evaluate overhead expenses. And in some cases, we've seen airport budgets have 40 to 50% of their budget being redirected for indirect costs. So any review of that, where the city can help in managing those indirect costs and not putting the pressure necessarily on the airport, and will put less burden on the airport's enterprise fund, which ultimately will keep it away from the general fund. So that's a really good point, Jeff.
Exciting stuff. It looks like at some point we may not even need runways. Like that's what the future is going to have in store for us if we're doing vertical liftoffs, right?
Well,
At some point.
yes,
So,
I think we're going to have concentrated areas on the airport that are going to be focused to serving the new electric vertical takeoff and landing. We're always going to have legacy aircraft in some form or
Sure.
fashion.
Yeah.
And some of the excitement also in emerging technology, maybe morphing is you know, the sustainable approach to the larger commercial aircraft. So we're starting to see hydrogen hybrid jet engines that are being looked at for regional transportation and stuff at a bigger level. And so it's a really exciting time to see how the new technology is meeting some of the challenges today. And again, we're talking about if you all go home and Google the word Pipstrel. Pipstrel is an all electric aircraft that looks like a little Cessna 150, which is kind of a premier recreational entry user type aircraft. And so with them being all electric and lowering the cost, hopefully we can see a rebound in the general aviation industry and the typical segment. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Director Creature. Yeah, have a foot planted in the past and our eyes look into the future. And, it's an exciting time. Like I think we discussed it a little bit last time where we were talking about, we've all been stuck in traffic, thinking about how nice it would be just to vertically take off, float with ease past all the traffic, and then land somewhere safely where traffic does not exist. So let's keep an eye on opportunities to make better use. And again, I guess this is another opportunity for us to work together and to keep looking for opportunities to find opportunities for our airport to be successful. And do we have any public comments on this item?
There are no public comments for this item.
Not even after the whole speech about the flying with the greatest of ease and vertical takeoff and land. I thought we would have tons of comments on that. Okay, let's move to committee assignments. Things a lot of things going on with the state. Personal assignments were put on hold for this last month. So anybody have anything to report?
So So 3CE will be meeting later on this year, and the California League of Cities, I was appointed to the Public Safety Committee again for 2026.
All right, good job there. Thank you, Councilmember Morales. Councilmember Deanda?
Yeah, so when it comes to the Water Resource Association committee, let's see. We're looking to promote conservation programs more through community partnerships and also increase a social media presence. That's kind of what's in the works, and I'll be able to report back once we move forward with those next steps.
Okay, thanks for that. Councilmember Resendez? Nothing to report? Okay. Any council members like to see anything, any requests for future agenda items?
So you have one on there from Councilmember Deanda after filling out the form. That's what this section is for. And so it just really needs thumbs up if you want to see that item come back, which is a presentation from Tobacco Education Program at San Benito County Public Health.
I'm good to hear that presentation. And city manager report?
Thank you, mayors and members of council. I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, there's no further business. This meeting is now adjourned.